got some fun ones.
That's a wide open door.
All right, and if at any time anybody feels like you can't hear me, let me know, because I'm going live from my microphone to prevent any echoing from coming out there. All right, you guys. So,
girl, I think you're live right now.
I am live right now. Live. Oh my God, it's okay. That's the beauty of this show, you guys. All right, you guys. As you guys come in, say hey. Welcome to the TUF Woman Roundtable. Oh my gosh. I'm so excited, guys. I'm so excited. All right, you guys, as you guys come in, say hey, and please, please, please feel free to ask questions and join in on this conversation. I'm a firm believer that everybody deserves a seat at the table. And in fact, in order for us to have these kinds of conversations, we need to have everybody have a seat at the table, you guys. All right. So I'm going to drop into my intro. I'm going to deviate a little bit because this is not the normal story show. And then I'm going to introduce you to these amazing epic humans that I get to share the stage with tonight. All right. So again, say hey as you come in, ask questions, join in the conversation. And if you feel so called to do so, please share this show so that I can continue bringing more amazing people and more amazing panels to you. And we can continue cultivating and creating epic freaking conversations. Oh my God, you guys. All right.
Well, Ashley, just really quick.
Yeah.
I missed the Ashley. Oh my God, you guys. That is one of my favorite things ever. So thank you for bringing that back. It's iconic. It's iconic.
Right?
Oh my God, you guys.
Hey, it's you know what? It's that and the Woo Girls. Woo! But anyway, all right. I'm gonna drop into my epic intro, and we're gonna have an epic conversation, and this is gonna be awesome. So, all right, hello, welcome to the TUF Woman Roundtable, you guys. All right, this is the table where I invite some super badass human freaking beings. Okay, tough human freaking beings. Take a seat and join in on the conversation and share their amazing story. At TUF Woman, I believe that all people have the power within themselves to live life authentically, free from fear, confident in who they are, and empowered to go out and get to live their life, whatever that looks like to them. And I share this belief by championing these people who have walked through the fire, felt the fear, faced adversity, and kept pushing through it all. And people who just own their stories and go out there and lead by example and create conversations so that other people can see that and do the same process. Because as I normally say on the table shows, when we give ourselves permission, I normally say we give ourselves permission to own and share our stories, but when we give ourselves permission to live a life authentic to ourselves and live in that truth, we give somebody else permission in the same boat. So,
that's so good.
I'm going to come up with a better one, but I'm like trying to ad-lib on this. Oh my God, hold on.
No, that's good.
I like that. Says,
hey, Angela. Hey. Alex is watching too.
Kay is coming to us from Tasmania. She says hello. She can't stay, but she enjoys. Hold on. Holy crud, you guys. Craig says, hey, Tiff. Hi. And I do too, Alex. Alex was the one who said you need to make sure Thomas gets on your panel. And I said yes. And Alex, that means you're next.
Oh yeah, she'll rock it.
Oh my God. All right. So as we go along, I am going to drop into the comments. So you guys don't worry about the time. I keep an eye on that. So this is literally just a place for you guys to come in and have this conversation. And I will take care of the comments as we go along. So I'll dip in every little bit just in case we get questions and stuff. But you guys, tonight we are talking about what happens when we become stuck. For those of us who are on social media, which I think is almost everybody at this point, I would imagine, we see that there is obviously a lot going on in the world, and it is very easy to come into a space of what I would call overanalysis paralysis, meaning we are invaded with a lot of information, and a lot of the times it's hard to discern what's necessarily a truth for us versus what's going on out there. So tonight, you guys, I really wanted to bring together this panel to talk about what are possible solutions, or even what are ways that we can show up when this happens in our life so that we don't become the proverbial stuck. You know, we said, God, I just feel stuck. I don't know what to do. So that is what tonight's show is about, is how do we start creating movement in our life when we are at a period of feeling stuck, which I think the COVID has brought that up for a lot of people. As always, before we go into this, you guys, I always want you to know that I'm never perpetuating my belief as the belief. So I want to paraphrase that intention that everything that I say for myself and is always just a thing that I either observe or believe for myself. So anyways, I'm going to let these amazing people introduce themselves, and then we're going to get started in this episode. So Thomas, if you want to kick us off.
Yes. Is there a certain question you'd like us to answer as an introduction, or just in general?
If you would just like to tell everybody, I just want to introduce everybody to who you are and what is it that you do. So normally I ask, who are you, what do you do, and who do you serve?
Oh, beautiful. So I'm Thomas Waterman, and I believe in a world where people fully align what they do to make money with what they do to experience meaning and fulfillment. I don't think life has to be either or in that way or in any way. So I have a company called Purpose Pioneers, and we help CEOs systemize their business using ancient wisdom like purpose, values, empathy, vulnerability, imagination, old stuff that's hard to bring back. But once people get it and they implement it, they go to the moon. So that's what I spend my daily life doing. I also have a passion for spiritual practice. So grounding into my body, opening my heart, and making sure I'm always clearing my channel so I'm not stuck, because I've been stuck in my life, and I've done some of the work and I'm still on that journey, and I love talking to other people. Every single person here has been doing the work too. So this is going to be a fun conversation because people are in practice. We're in the work. So I'm very excited about it.
Amen. Susan, your turn.
Okay, great. Thank you. My name is Susan Crawford. I am the founder of Meraki Inspired Coaching and Consultation, and I help women choose to lead and live unapologetic, unconventional, and unfuckable lives. I think it's so important for us to let go of the shackles of the status quo of our expectations and our pressures and start making choices that allow us to lead our lives our way. And this is the perfect scenario to be able to start making those intentional choices and start taking deliberate action. So I'm a
Amen.
I'm a coach, I'm a speaker, and I'm a trailblazer because I try to do this every day in my life.
Practice. Love it.
Thank you.
All right, Tiff, your turn.
Hey, first and foremost, thank you. Actually, I love your show. It's so fun. It's just the way you light up when people get on here. It's amazing. I love the diversity. Not everybody clicks to what everybody coaches or what everybody suggests or the tips or mindsets that everybody does. So having more people on is just a phenomenal way to help, push your message or everybody else's message to help more people. So thank you for doing it. My name is Tiffany Lineback. Here for women. I am a resilience and alignment coach, and I help women embrace their own enough and build their foundations on their own self-worth. We're so bombarded, and with COVID-19, there's a lot of people out there questioning, what they're doing, where they're going. And I think now is just an opportune time to be able to serve at higher capacities that we've been doing. So in reaching more people and, as this goes on. So that's my passion. It hasn't always been that way. I've hit some pretty big speed bumps in the road to get to where I wanted to serve, but I'm here, and just the passion and mission is to just, help women look in the mirror and know that they're enough.
Amen.
That's powerful.
All right. Tina, round us off.
Hello. All right. Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity to be on here. And this message is so aligned with everything that I am. So my name is Christine Encarnacion. For friends and family, it's Tina. And I believe in a world where women are able to heal from their past and step into their personal power, transforming their life and making massive change to improvement and positivity. And so this is just so perfect for me tonight. I just published my book, Stuck in the Fire, and it's all about shedding the skin from your past and stepping into your personal power and claiming who you are and being unapologetic to the world. And so I am so passionate about this. I own an intuitive healing and coaching company called Healing with Tina. And there's nothing more in this world that sings my soul than watching people transform before my eyes and capture who they were meant to be instead of who they were told they had to be. So that's me. That's what I do. And I just love this. I just love this topic.
All right. And before we dive into that, can I just take a moment for all of us to just feel this absolutely freaking amazing energy? And I was going to say, Thomas, how many other people have you coached in here? Because
I got some people in here.
Oh my gosh. Oh, that's awesome. And Terry says, great panel, great topic. Yes, I think it's really needed right now. So I think that we're just going to dive into it. And obviously, the way I normally start this, you guys, is if we want to start counterclockwise, just to get our thoughts on what the current situation is in regards to the topic. So when we're talking about being stuck, when I acknowledge it right now, I see, like I said, that there's a ton of information. So we're receiving this influx. And a lot of the times it can be difficult to discern what is necessarily maybe a truth to us or what resonates versus just all the stuff that is out there. So what this can turn to is almost a fear-like energy or an undercurrent of fear. And what that does is it puts into a state of paralysis where we don't know what to do. There's a lot of people without jobs. We are really in this state of unknown. And I think for some people going through it, there is a way, there's a way to view it, or there's a way that we've learned to view it. And I'm not saying that is the way, but I've learned to utilize the unknown as a space for infinite possibilities. So that is, I think, what helps me to keep from becoming stuck. So what I really want to focus on today is how you see what's going on in the world. I always want to acknowledge that again. But how you feel that there are ways for us to start creating movement, or for people to start creating movement if they feel stuck. So, Thomas, if you would love to head us off in this conversation.
I would love to. Thank you. I feel like suffering tends to come from the mind. It tends to be an act of the mind. So in my experience, especially last year when I was in Bali, my experience was becoming aware that my mind gets in the way of me doing what I want, being who I want to be, feeling how I want to feel. And it was me acknowledging, wow, thank you, mind. I know you mean well. I know you're doing your bestest. You're trying hard. Thank you. And really coming back to two different things. And it's stillness and movement. So both and. So a big part of my Bali experience was singing, kirtan. It was ecstatic dance. So dancing, dropping back into my body. It was breath work. Really getting in tune with my body in a lot of ways. And then the other piece was, sitting in a bathtub and not moving and really getting still and listening to my body and listening to my inner being. So for me, when I see a lot of stuff getting hurled my way, and of course my mind is attempting to take it all in and create meaning and create a direction and find a path and a strategy, it means well. But that's overload, and it allows the mind to get easily overloaded. So for me, I just drop back into my body. I get still. I move. I dance. I sing. And for me, that helps me get back into this moment and back into my truth. And then from there, I can ask the question, how can I serve in this moment? What is true for me right now in this moment? Instead of getting lost in the mind and lost in society telling me all these different narratives, whether it's a conspiracy theory or whatever, it helps me not get stuck in that world where my mind is attempting to take over. My mind I feel like it'll never come up with a real answer, just more of a rationality. So that's my little foundational play. I'm curious to hear, Susan, Tiffany, how your thoughts on dropping back into the self to let go of the mind. I'm curious if you all vibe with that in any way.
Yeah, no, Thomas, I can definitely appreciate that. I think there is so much chaos outside of us that the first thing we need to do is drop back into our bodies and find that anchor, that stillness, or that center where we can feel grounded and feel though we're in control, because everything literally around us is out of our control. And for the women that I work with, a lot of them are working moms. So what's happened is that this life of work and this life of home have collided, and now there's no separation. So where we had a moment or two in a commute to work or back home to decompress and let go of the stress, we now are working at home in our sacred space. We're homeschooling our kids, for a lot of us who are moms. And all of this is compounding on already gender expectations around perfection, competition, comparison among our peers. And it's just adding on to the layers of stress of, how do I manage all of this? How do I juggle all of these balls without losing myself? And for me, this conversation is around COVID, yes, and being stuck and out of control. But the other conversation that I don't see us having is, this is a moment, this is a perspective we can take where women especially, no offense, Thomas, and probably men too, it's not my experience, so maybe you want to comment on it just generally, is...
I'm super offended.
I'm so sorry. But what I'm saying is,
I'm okay.
We need to take care of ourselves in order to be able to do all of these other things that are in the scope of our responsibility. And we're not talking about that because we're so overwhelmed and overloaded with the external stuff. We have to come back home. And Thomas, I can really relate to what you were saying, because it is that homecoming, that grounding that has to happen first before we can do the work that we need to do outside of ourselves.
That homecoming. Oh my gosh. Yeah, I might use that. That's really good.
All right.
You guys think about, there's so much overwhelm in everything that's going on, and it's not, I mean, there's so much. It's not just the virus. It's homeschooling. It's coming home who parents who've never done that. It's getting laid off, or your partner or your brothers or sisters getting laid off. It's all of that stress, the economic turmoil that people are going through. And I totally agree, getting centered back with yourself, and just being able to, the overwhelm and everything that's happened, it's all different. It's all changing. It's so unknown what's going to happen. None of us in our lifetime have ever experienced anything like this. Yeah. So unknown is so hard. But what I'm finding too is that, how we handled this is a lot of how we've handled past things in our lives. Those patterns of thinking and things that we unconsciously do are, I think coming out, just overwhelmingly coming out from people because of the trauma, because of the stress, because of the overwhelm. So maybe, things, how we've handled things before is just, getting totally gone over to the left because of everything that's going on. So I think that, this is an amazing, amazing time to, like Ashley said, there's so much information, but just to come centered and go, okay, is this information going to serve me? Nope. Out. And, is this, sort through it and start cleaning up here, what's going on, so that when you come out of this, you're stronger than before. And that's, that's my goal here, is to make sure that, myself and my family and the people that I serve and the women that are going through that, we're all coming out stronger on the other end than we went into this. And it's not going to be easy, but with the help of all y'all, it's going to happen.
Definitely. Yeah. I love this time right now, because I feel like there was so much overwhelm already. We had so much information coming at us from every single angle that we were already overwhelmed. And I think many of us were screaming for a break. We were screaming for a pause. We needed to learn how to breathe, but we just didn't know how to. And so I, for one, am thriving in this COVID-19 time right now, because it gave me the time I needed to just stop and breathe and have no excuse. I had nothing to be able to point the finger at and say, I can't do that because of this, because all of the brakes got put on hold. Like everything stopped in my life. I am a wife, a mom. I own my own business. I work 60 hours a week for an employer. Like I'm an author. I've got so many things, so many balls in the air that I was like, they're going to fall and they're all going to fall at once. And I don't know how I'm going to manage my life when they all drop.
Yeah.
And then COVID-19 hit and they didn't have any other option but to drop. And so then now that they're all on the floor, now I've got this mess and I'm like, how do I sort it out? But what beautiful time do I have where I am forced to be present in the moment and go, what is really worth it? What can I get rid of? What can I purge? And where does my energy really need to go? And so I'm able to come in and go, oh, my husband really needed me right now. My kids really need to get to know their mom again. That, you know, that employer, he's important, but he's not so important that I have to put my personal life aside. And I now don't have the opportunity but to pause and breathe. And not only that, but the community is coming together as a whole and saying, we're all in this together. It's not me against you anymore. It's we're in this together. And so I have the time to fall and know that others are here to pick me up. And so I am just really embracing this time and going, this is my time. And this is the time the universe needed, because we were all going so fast that we didn't even have time to pause and enjoy the beauty that surrounded us.
Yeah.
Oh, Tina.
Yeah.
Tina, you're killing it.
There's so many blessings that are happening too. You know, clearer waters, you know, less pollution, things like that, family time, dinners, all of those things that, you know, for me, I believe that God's being able to use this time, like you said, Tina, just to kind of slow everybody down. And as much for some of us, like for me, I love people and the social distancing is kicking my ass.
Tell me about it.
Now I'm just like, finally, I want one of those memes that says, check on your extrovert friends. We're not okay. We're I'm like, I want to talk to an adult, but there's so many things. I love what you said about just taking the time. The balls are going to drop. They're going to drop for all of us.
Yeah.
But there is such the availability of time to be able to discern through things. And, you know, with all the information, it's a great opportune time to really kind of dig into yourself and be like, okay, well, do I believe what that person is saying? Or now there's a whole new twist on a joke that was put out there or a meme that was put out there. And to really kind of, for me, it's sitting back and kind of reading what everybody says on a post that's maybe a little controversy and being able to just open my mind and go, oh, yeah, that makes more sense, or that feels better, or that's more of a servant heart. Yeah, you know, and that we, you know, more embracing of that, I think is definitely going to help people get through this.
Sure.
Sure.
You know, Tiffany, you're confirming one of my theories. People saying that social media is like making things worse, and it's like, oh, people are being so nasty to each other. But I think it's helping me. It's helped me in my experience be able to cope and deal with opposing opinions and more nasty external behavior. Yeah. So I'm less, you know, overwhelmed or had less anxiety, less extreme emotion because I'm getting a lot of it and I'm able to really get to know myself and go, oh, okay, like that's always coming at me and I'm still here. Yeah. I'm okay. So I always think more. Like I don't want less disinformation. I want more. I don't want less people being mean. I want more, so I can really learn and train myself to keep my heart open anyways, to be who I am anyways. And I heard a lot. The theme I was hearing is there's a lot of stuff going on, and really it's a microcosm of something that's been going on for a long time. So now we're all essentially being invited into a forced reflection of, hey, maybe when shit is happening external for me, maybe I don't have to be overwhelmed. Maybe I don't have to be stressed. Like these aren't stressful things. I'm being stressed out by them. Yeah. So so there's a distinction there. And I'm finding I'm being forced into, I can choose how I show up, and I can be powerful no matter what's happening around me. And COVID, Corona crisis, whatever we're calling it, is inviting us into taking our power back from saying, oh, that's happening outside of me. I need to now feel this way, or now I need to lash out in this way. It's such a beautiful opportunity to get to know me. And that's how I've been feeling. Like if I'm getting bombarded with 1,000 opinions, I get to now sift through that. And I have time to sift through that and go, yeah, what's true for me? Instead of just being like, I'm so busy and overwhelmed, I'm just going to take whatever that guy or girl says on the TV screen is true. So one, I think it's a beautiful opportunity to get to know myself. And then two, I think it's an opportunity to separate myself from the external world and take back my own power in terms of what's happening to me does not make me have to feel a certain way.
And to piggyback on that is like what two things I heard from both Tina and Tiffany and Thomas, I think you're reiterating this. The one thing, Tina, that you talked about was the juggling balls. And I think we've come so accustomed to having multiple balls in the air and just trying to keep them all up, no matter how much that that we have to sacrifice in order to do that. Mm-hmm. With COVID coming, our balls sort of fell all over the place. And it's like, oh crap, what do I do now? Because now I get the choice to pick up what I need and leave some of the things that didn't necessarily serve me. Right. One of the analogies I use is glass balls. I think now we're realizing we have to be a glass ball and we cannot break. We were pushing ourselves and hustling and working hard to our detriment. And now we've all been forced to pause and breathe and say, hold on a second, if I'm not okay, this is not going to end up okay. And so I think this whole reprioritization of what's important to me now versus what was important to me 6 months ago or 3 months ago, I think that's a really great perspective that we're all being invited to shift into. And I think that also speaks to, Tiffany, what you were saying. This is all emotional intelligence. Like when we used to think of fight, flight, or freeze, we're stuck. A lot of us are stuck because we're in the freeze space. But what opens up is, wow, I can actually grow in this space and use all of these skills that have sort of been numbed and put out because I've been doing what the wheel has had me do, not necessarily tapping into what I'm good at, what I'm strong at, the problem solving, the decision making, the reality testing, Thomas, you were talking about. We can open ourselves up to all of these new skills that are already within us. And so this opportunity here is ripe for our personal growth to help me understand myself, help me understand others, but also help me understand the space that we all share in this collective.
Woo.
Yeah.
Susan, Susie.
I want to say something before we go. Thomas, I'm really happy you brought that up because for the last couple of days, I've struggled with a lot and not so much struggle with the information, but struggled, I guess, with the fact that there's so much. And like I said, I didn't feel like that we were showing ways to implement the information into people. So I was like, it's like, how do I respond to that? And then I had to stop and pause and go, why do you need to respond anyways?
Mm-hmm.
Why do you feel that you need to respond? Are you in fact trying to prove a point, which is what you're kind of up here getting a little upset about? So for a second there, I had to take a step back and pause. So when you talked about really, choosing that reality and choosing to acknowledge what that came up for me, that really resonated a lot with me because I really had a moment there where I was like, man, this is just like so much. And then it came back to that choice. It's like, listen, you can choose to stay open to what's coming up and discern what is the truth for you and choose whether or not you want to respond or react to whatever else is going on around you, as well as choose to not, I don't want to say engage, but not necessarily go into all of it. I can choose to stay out here and just go, you know what, that is allowed to be as much as I'm allowed to be.
Well, Ash, you're touching on something really important, Ash, is the idea that why do I get triggered, right? And I want to hear everyone's perspective on this. People getting triggered with all this information. If one person's talking about 5G, everyone's like, you're so stupid, there's no research. Or if someone's, saying, believe this person on the other way, it's like, you're so stupid. Like, how could you fall for that? Everyone is getting triggered because everyone has different opinions. The question is, why am I getting so upset?
Yeah.
Why am I? Because Tiffany, one last point is if I felt very secure in myself and what I was saying, I wouldn't get as upset if someone said something I don't agree with. Usually I get the most upset when secretly I'm a little uncertain about what's true for me. And I'm upset because I'm now having to defend this thing And I'm like, am I going to have to change my whole worldview and change all my relationships and change who I am because what I'm thinking isn't true? So that's an important little core seed to talk about, is we're getting upset at each other because it's something in here. Like what bothers me about you is really about me in a lot of ways. So it's so fun because this time is inviting us to get super fucking triggered. Like super triggered. And it's so beautiful because we need as much contrast. I know in my life, I need as much contrast to come up. I love going back home and visiting my parents for 2 weeks because all the stuff comes up and I'm like, thank you, mom and dad. Thank you. I can now be aware of these wounds that I need to pull the thorn out of. Thank you so much. And COVID, Corona, the Corona times is inviting us to do a lot of work, and it's giving us a lot of material to really let go of so much that's holding us back from being divine channels in this world. So yeah, I'm curious to hear everyone's thoughts on like that whole trigger piece.
I want to piggyback with what you said, and Ashley too, about, you know, that's come up a lot for me over the last couple weeks. Well, I mean, years, but really just in your face over the last couple of weeks, is just being able to sit back as a person, but as a coach too, as a profession of watching people, learning people, listening to people, stepping on their paths, and having this time to really sit back. And not only do you get to know yourself, but you get to know people by just taking the time. And for me in my profession, that's huge. Is just being able to really take into consideration all of the avenues of what people are experiencing on any level. You know, for me, I'm, you know, a single mom, 2 kids came home from school. You know, I have a food and beverage based business on the, as another part of my companies. It's tanking, the economic, you know, all of these things and everything that I'm feeling compared to someone who, you know, that is farther along in their path of life than I am. And for me, it was recognizing what, just because you maybe haven't lost as much, or your business isn't lost as much, or you're still working, for me to realize that the stress of everything that's going on is affecting them just as much. Just in different ways for them, and not
different set of problems.
Different set of problems. And that's, you know, that's huge when we're going through this, because when people post things, you know, and social media is such a great avenue for spreading the good, but it's such a great avenue for spreading the bad too, and the fear and all of that. But people just, you know, they handle so many different things, so many different ways. And it's a great way to learn about people, but to also what you said, why does that trigger me? And for one thing that I work with with self-love and self-care and I Am Enough for women is truly valued and loved and looked in the mirror and said, that's the woman that I am. That's the person that I want to be. Why does that bother you? What they said or what they posted or how they're feeling? Where's the core in what that, like you said, triggers in you? And it's such an opportune time to be, boom, 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 shot at, pew, pew, all the time, everywhere, because everyone has an opinion about everything.
They sure do. I like to say it's holding up that proverbial mirror. Is when you feel that pain in your soul when someone says something, or you feel that rage and anger, it's because it's reflecting your image and it's pointing the finger at you, even though you don't see that finger. And so for me, it's been something that I've learned over the years, because that was part of the self-healing I had to go through in order to get to who I am today, is really looking at myself in the mirror and going, why does so many people hurt me? Why am I allowing this to hurt me? Because by me not addressing this and healing this wound, I'm allowing that power of that other person over me. And so it's holding that mirror to myself so that I can hold it up to somebody else, right? And go, okay, you're not really angry at me. Yes, what I said or what I did really upset you, and I understand that, or it really hurt you. That's the wound inside of you. And I'm just bringing that to the surface. And so how can we dissect that? Where is the root of this? Because the issue is not what was done. The issue is the root and where it's planted out in your soul. And so how do we get down to the root? How do we undig the soil around it and yank that weed so that the true plant of your personal power can grow and heal and carry on and strengthen, so you can then pass that power on to others. And so COVID is really helping with that right now. And I just love it.
Forced reflection. Oh, it's beautiful.
Yeah. A chance to go through too, and there's so much. What you triggered said something about, like, you know, for example, my son, he was asking for a mouse for his computer and just telling me all about why he needed a mouse for his computer. And I said, yes. And he just kept going. Why he needed a mouse for his computer. And I just said, honey, we're good. And he's like, what? And I was like, I said yes. But he just, he just kept going with what he thought he had to justify or make his point. And there's so much of that, people just sit back and go, oh, they just said yes.
Yeah. Well, I think that is because we are programmed to expect the worst in every situation. And so you kind of build up a story in your head about what they're going to say before you even say anything, so that you are prepared to defend your honor or defend what you need or defend your thought. And so that's going on too. A lot of people are sitting here and they're having to battle with their own thoughts because there's nothing else to battle with. You're not fighting with anyone else. You're isolated. And having that and dropping that defense and just leaning into your truth and going, I'm okay with this. I don't have to defend this. This is me. And I love this and I accept this. And it's okay to just be here.
I think that's the big part of it, is to be okay with being here. But I think this has forced so many people out of their comfort zone of the safety of their work, the safety of their homes, the safety of like those identity markers that now we are all at home and we are with loved ones or we are by ourselves and we are forced to do that introspection. And I think for a lot of people who are being triggered, it's scary being with your thoughts and being with your why and being with this whole existential question of, so what's next? That was normal, but now this is a new normal. So where do I fit in? And I think because we're all in this very uncomfortable, like growth space, opportunity, depending on how you look at it, it's really freaking scary because responsibility is on us now.
Yes.
What happens next? How do I get unstuck? Whether you're a business owner, whether you're a parent, whether you're, an employee or have just been laid off or wherever you are in this spectrum, the next question is, what am I going to do next? Because that next step is going to be not only a character defining moment, perhaps for some of us, but also too, it may be the next step to the path that we have open to us. That's scary because there are a lot of people who are really comfortable being in that little space of comfort where everything just operates, everything just goes. And now it's like, ooh, I have some self-agency. I can take some leadership here, but I'm not used to that. And that scares me.
Yeah.
It's power. It's stepping back into real power.
Yeah.
Is what you're talking about.
Exactly. That's exactly it, Thomas.
And there's a lot of insecurity in that safety comfort zone you're talking about. It actually, I think deep down, is less safe.
Yeah.
So I think we're being given an opportunity to get more sturdy.
Yes.
In a lot of ways, anti-fragile, if you will. It's a term going around. It's funny. What I'm hearing is that we're talking about what's going on is the battlefield of the mind. It is what I'm hearing. We're getting triggered. We're getting upset. All this trauma is stored, and we're losing track of what do I do next, Susan, to your point. What do I do next? How do we do that in a whirlwind, a tornado of all of this input into the mind and attempting to allow our mind, which has no real direction, to figure out what to do next? How is that possible?
Yeah.
So then we talked about in the very beginning of this conversation is how do we come back into center through practice, through physical movement, through stillness, through turning off all those inputs so I can come back, listen to my heart, tune in with my intuition, with my guides, with whatever we want to call it, but there's something that's guiding us, and tune back into that by letting go of the mind through practice, and then saying, what is the next step? You know, we have I saw this amazing like spiritual meme thing on Instagram. It's this old wizard man and he's holding this small light, and it says like a small lamp is really our intuition. It's not going to show us the whole path, but it'll show us the next step. And that's really all we need to do, is not get caught up in, oh my God, when are they going to reopen America? Is it in May or June or July? I don't know. Oh my God. It's what can I do next in this moment right now? And how can I make sure I'm doing that from a place of wholeness and truth, a place that's coming from here. And really when I find that place, then I can start listening to people, and I won't get triggered. I won't get lost in the mind. I can take in some useful information. My mind now becomes a tool of the heart instead of it becoming the whole damn ship. It just becomes a tool of the heart. You know, let's let the heart and steer the ship, and we'll let the mind be a tool of that. Like, thank you, mind. I appreciate you. So it sounds like we've formulated a bit of a plan on what to do to get unstuck, on what practice to do that, and then how to know what to do next, and what to look out for along the way, and what mindset to have while we're entering into all this muck and mushy craziness, how we can really be powerful and clear in this time.
And that next step thing, there's so much to the next step thing, because people are, when are things going to open? When am I going to go back to work? When's my next paycheck? When do kids go back to school? How am I going to know what there's so much. So for what I'm working with clients now is like, I love what you said, Thomas, is just coming back. What's my next step? What is one thing? No matter how small or no matter how big, you know, depending on the person, that I can do right now to shift my thinking, you know, shift into action if that's what I'm wanting, shift into, you know, silence and stillness. What is one thing that can help me right now? You know, none of us know tomorrow. None of us know next week. None of us know in August. So just being able to, you know, what's that one thing? Build that foundation, get that solid, do the next thing, you know, continually going. But what's my next thing? What's my next thing? In this huge state of overwhelm, you're just like, Susan, you said you're going to be on the wheel.
I'm trying to predict the future we have right now, and we don't know when anything is going to change. And so that's out of my control. When the borders open, when the schools open, when I can't control that. So what I can control is my home, my kids, and make sure they have what they need, and myself. And beyond that, I'm doing what I'm told and going with it. I mean, like, for me personally, it's just letting go of the resistance. I don't need to know all the information. I'm doing what I control.
That's control.
Exactly.
Yeah. I love that. I love that you're stepping into surrender, and surrender is really powerful. And it allows my mind to go chill out so I can show up powerfully in this moment. Powerfully. And serve to the highest good in this moment, instead of trying to control every little outcome, which creates a lot of tension in the mind and body, which creates suffering, which makes our decision making worse. It's insane. So I totally agree. Just liberating back into this moment and taking divinely inspired action and seeing. And I always say, like, version 1 leads to version 2, which leads to version 3. Like, just create version 1 and see what happens next, and see what happens next. So for me in my life, like, I'm so glad I've been able to, like, I'm creating a system right now for a business, and I created it once and then I recreated it again and again and again. They got better and better and better. And I didn't know what the heck it was going to look like. I didn't know how it was going to turn out. I didn't know if it was going to work, but it's just letting the fuck go and just serving from the moment in the highest good and just seeing what happens next, and having that faith to just let it all unfold. And it's tough. And I'm not saying that's easy. I know it's tough, especially with a lot of stuff, especially with people that we're responsible for, like children. I can't even imagine. I'm not there yet. So I understand it's tough, but I always ask myself the question, what will help me be the most powerful in this moment? What will help me love others the most? And it's not in this mind space. not getting caught up in what everyone else is saying. It's this moment and what am I doing right now?
Yeah.
There's power in living in that moment. And what's really beautiful is I think a lot of people are getting there. A lot of people that have been so busy, like, what's the word? Like so busy keeping themselves too distracted to really pay attention to themselves. They don't have those distractions anymore. So they're actually going in and making the changes that they need to make. And if you think about it, each individual person making those changes for themselves are going to impact our communities and our world and the earth and the universe in such a powerful way. And I think it's a shift that's been needed. And the energy that COVID-19 is creating is going to change this world as we know it. The way that people aren't even going to understand because it's on an energetic level that most people don't know how to digest. But it's just going to make that shift that the world has been craving and crying out for. And I think that you're going to see people actively putting steps forward to get to know their neighbors, to get to know their community members, to build relationships. When we used that bedroom community where we'd go to work, we'd come home, we'd park our car in the garage, shut the door, and pray to God no one knocked on our doors. We're going to be opening up our blinds. We're going to be going to the parks. We're going to be talking to the strangers next to us. And we're going to be building those energetic connections that we've needed, but we've been scared of. And so I just think that the purpose of COVID-19, although it seems very scary and very overwhelming and what's next, I think energetically we've all been crying out for something like this. And so I love the shift that it's creating in this world.
That's all how to look at it.
Yeah, I appreciate that perspective, Tina. Yeah. And I bet a lot of people are going to have a lot of different perspectives and feelings about that, and then that's their perspective, and that's beautiful too. So I tend to agree with you. So.
And I'm gonna take comments real quick, if that's all right. And Terry says that's such a great point. She was talking back to when you were talking, Thomas, about just telling my mind, thank you, but I'm okay. A lot lately,
Thank you.
I'm really getting a lot out of my quiet time. She said the music. She also said music was key for her. Jen agreed with something. I find that when we're such in a good flow, it's oftentimes I really want to make sure that comes out. So self-care is so important. We forget that so easily. And I think that's actually a theme that's coming up for people, especially a lot of people I talk to, is how negligent they've really been with their own self-care, myself included. It's very easy for that to be the last thing that we think about.
Yeah.
And then Angela says it's not just women going through it. The universe gave us all a pause.
Yeah.
It's sad the lives lost, which is why I always start these panels off with, I want to acknowledge the situation, because to act as if what's happening now is not happening is kind of bulldozing everything else. But for once, we're on an even playing field, we can raise from here equal. And then Jamie said, boom, Susan. But I want to kind of piggyback on what everyone's saying, and we talk about being very present in the moment. And I think what has helped me, and Thomas would be a testament to this because he saw this one. So I discovered a gentleman by the name of Osho a very long time ago, and I read his book called Compassion, and it just absolutely revolutionized. So the way I think about a lot of stuff, but we first and foremost, we talked about people we've already formulated a conversation in our head. And instead of going into a conversation to actually hear what someone else is saying, we've already determined the steps we're going to take. So when I go out into the world, I like to remind myself, am I listening to actually hear the other person?
Yeah.
And it's why when I do these shows, you don't hear me talk a lot. I know for the women who, Tiffany, you've been on here, are you actually listening? It's because I'm choosing to listen to hear you, not to necessarily respond. So I oftentimes like to take the step back and ask myself, am I going out into social media, the world, to actually listen to what people have to say? Or am I listening to respond based off my own triggers or my own thoughts and my beliefs in an effort to make them believe what I believe? And the last part that comes from, here's where Osho ties into this. So this was a huge pivotal point for me. I was sitting there having a conversation with a friend of mine, and he's the one who introduced me to Osho. And I was sitting and saying to him, I feel very saddened for the people who have not awoken, because I was in the very cusp of my spiritual journey. And he's like, well, why? And I said, well, what do you mean, why? And he said, why are you sad for them? And he's like, and I said, well, because they're not awake. He said, but you want to know something? And I said, what? He said, that's okay. And I'm like, well, what do you mean that's okay? He said, everybody's exactly where they're supposed to be. Just like you have a right to live your life your way on your journey, everybody has the same right. He said, the only one that matters is you. He said, that is all you have to be concerned with. He said, everybody is allowed to be, and that is all that matters. He said, you're where you need to be, they're where they need to be, and don't feel sad for where they're at. He said, when whatever they're meant to go through, that's what they're meant to go through. And so for me, being able to come out into the world, I'll say that has allowed me to be present. So I love to piggyback on what all of you say. I think it's so important to talk about just being in this moment, and also to be able to go out and actively practice compassion with the world, and to recognize that for every right I have to believe what I believe, everybody else has that same right to be here and believe what they believe and have the conversations.
I hope.
So
Ashley, absolutely beautiful. And I think that's the biggest practice for me as I scroll through or I'm talking to anyone, realizing everyone has their own experiences and their own friends and their own sources of information and their own reasons to believe anything. So I'm seeing, 19 different opinions on what's happening and this need to understand. And it's been the most rewarding practice for my freaking heart to not judge or not dehumanize or not be mad at if someone isn't getting it or they're not awake or they're not thinking what I think is the truth. I believe this is the biggest opportunity for us to practice that unconditional love. Because if I keep getting mad at people who are mad at me or don't agree with me, I'm going to facilitate division. But if I can keep my heart open, then I invite transformation. And that could be my own or them. Yeah, I've never said that before. I don't know where the hell that came from. But that's the key. And I think the biggest practice is a moment to moment heart practice. And something I always do, I call it a heart hack. And I ask myself the question when I'm feeling my heart want to close and I want to get mad at someone or react or respond, like, oh my God, you cut me off. I stop and I say out loud, if my heart is wide open and I'm feeling warmth in my heart, how would I feel? What would I say? And what would I do in this situation? And it allows the mind to melt away, and it allows the fear to melt away. It allows the protective maneuvers to subside. And I step into what I believe currently is like who I am. And it's a really liberating practice. So to everyone's point, man, this contrast that's being thrown at us is the opportunity for liberation.
Yeah, there's a lot of conditions. Love with conditions. There's a lot of that. As human beings, we're natural to defending ourselves and listening to respond and or not to understand what the other person is saying. But I think people are going to come out of this with more of an agape love instead of a conditional love. People are going to start to see, like you said, Ashley, for who they are. They're going to start, seeing people accurately and being aware of the person that, you're spending time with now. And rekindling or getting to know and being able to look at someone and get the awareness of what that person is really like, and then take that discernment of how that impacts you or what you think about it or why you think about that, and just being able to move into a different state of love during this time is going to be huge.
And I think that's where the choice is. And Thomas and Tiffany both articulated that. It's the choices that we make now that will be those small steps to create that ripple effect. And that's when we will see collective change. And it's those minuscule, minute choices in the moment where we choose who we want to be and how we want to show up that is going to then spread probably stronger than what COVID is spreading, but it's going to permeate our consciousness and our being, and hopefully change how we've been relating to one another till now.
Suze.
I hope so.
Suze. We'll see. And I think the important thing is to, like, for me, I'm going to make it my own practice. I don't know if it's the right thing to do this heart thing. I don't know if it's good or bad. I know it feels right. It feels like what I want to do. And I think it's important to not go, this is the answer, the path, you must take it or you are bad. Then we get back into the same cycle, which is so easy to do. I get there sometimes. And so it's such an internal journey for each individual. And even us, like we're all sitting here, we all have our own little way of practicing what the heck we're agreeing on right now, so there's always this unique mosaic to something beautiful. And I think we are a representation of that, my peeps. Speaking of Ashley, your energy is amazing. Like you are holding space with saying nothing, and I'm just feeling you the whole time. Like you're basically Osho at this point. Yeah.
But we talk about the mosaic and here, and this is what I think, and this is why I say the energy from the show, it just lights me up, because we all really do, while we all have intertwining belief systems that maybe come up or they're close or we share beliefs in some way, we all at the same time have very dissimilar belief systems. But in practicing compassion, that's why I love this show. I sit here and I get to just be with you guys in the most simple sense of I just get to be with you guys. I get to be with whomever comes on here and comments, and maybe they don't comment something that I would deem like acceptable, but you know what? I get to choose to show them grace and be like, you know what? That's okay. That's how you see this. I'm not here to change your worldview or anything else. But and thank you for that. I received that so much.
Is that not why we're here? To change people? Is that not why we're here, to change people's views?
My hope is that if anything, we help to shed light on something that person has been working to unearth. That we act as the tool. Like I think as coaches especially, we are not here to give people anything because they already have it. It's already there. Yep. I always tell people, my friends are like, well, can you give me an answer? No, you already have the answer. I made one friend very upset. She's like, what do you mean? I'm like, consider me your little like spade you dig in the garden with. I'm just your tool. Yeah. I'm just your tool. I'm not here to give you something you don't have.
That's so good.
Have it. And that's so good. And then Sandy said, and Sandy just scheduled a show while we were doing this. She said,
Sandy,
practice self-awareness, not only recognize and understand our own emotions, but acknowledge that their effect on others as well. Resist the urge to downplay the feelings of others right now. Exactly. And I think that going back to compassion and I think why these panels are so important is to recognize that everybody is feeling some sort of way. We have to acknowledge the whole and not just acknowledge ourselves, because then it just comes back to that place of coming from self, right? So we have to acknowledge the whole and allow everybody to share the space. And that's why I talk about everybody deserves a seat at the table. Right, yeah. When I talk about moving the collective forward, everybody needs to be present, and we all need to be able to hold space for everybody. So I'm just like,
well, everybody react differently. I mean, the reality of this situation is there's going to be people who just grab whatever they have and run like a striped ass state. Like they are going to go and they are going to, power through everything. And there's going to be people, who are going to not do anything, that they're going to come out of this the exact way that they went in. There's going to be people, who, whatever their choices are, they may come out worse. And that's the reality of it. But I think that there's so much love and so much service that people like us that are willing to get, that any of those people who have any inclination to go forward at all through this, there's so many different avenues that you can do. There's five of us on here who I'm sure if we said, what can you do right now at this moment, we're not going to have the same, answer. But the one person that hopped on to watch, me, or the one person that hopped on to watch Ashley, Tina can give a suggestion and blow that person's mind. Yeah. That's why this is so good. People get to see you, they get to connect with you. And as much human connection that we've lost over the years and the social distancing that's happening, I am like, I don't want to be 6 feet away from you. I want to be in your bubble. Right there.
right?
Well, and I will say that the biggest thing that I've learned, especially from the show, and Thomas, actually, you were like the catapult for this. Thomas and Alex were the first people to really show me what it meant to hold space for someone, and the absolute definition of just allowing someone to be in that moment. So the thing that this has allowed me to do, and what I've realized that human connection really comes down to, is going to another person and going, "Hey, I see you. I see you as a person. Like, I see all of you as you are, and I accept you right at this level. I would not change a single thing." And coming from that awareness has allowed me to walk through this earth and see people. And just to touch on this, it is the most, I can't even explain it, but it is the most life-changing thing to literally acknowledge a person at the most basic level of their humanity, and them and just the change that comes over their face. They go, someone sees me. So I think if we talk about, and we're coming to truly, I think to truly, in my opinion, and this is, like I said, these are just my beliefs, to begin being the change, we just need to start seeing people and connecting on a level where we go, listen, I see you exactly as you are. And as I'm allowed to be here, so are you, and nothing has to change.
Yeah, I think
them accurately.
Yeah, I think what I'm hearing is we need to honor other people's journey, because we're side by side, but we're not on the same path.
Yeah,
and so that's something I was just having a conversation about earlier today. Is so many times we want to take people that we think they're in the wrong, or we think they're headed in the wrong direction, and we want to put them on our path and say, this is where you need to head. But what you need to realize is your path is not their path. They have their own direction, their own lessons, their own experience that they have to experience, and they have to learn to fulfill what they need out of this life. And by you taking them and telling them how to do something without them learning it themselves, or by you doing something for them because you don't think that they're capable of doing it, you're stealing that lesson from them. You're stealing that tool that they're going to learn. You're stealing their ability to fulfill a purpose in this life that only they are meant to fulfill. And so we need to honor people where they're at and go, okay, I understand. Like, I might not agree, but you have your own path. And so I love you for who you are. I thank you for what you're giving me in the world. And I forgive you for any pain that you're causing me, but I still need you. And so that's so important. I'm hearing from every single person different words, but basically the same thing is honor the journey. Don't force the change. So,
amen.
Oh, right, we're getting a lot of taglines up in this.
We do. And just today, this is on YouTube and stuff, so feel free to go back and take said taglines. All right. But Sandy said, Angela says, listen, I think we're all 1 in a million, you guys. We really are. We're 1 in a billion. If you look at the probability of what it costs to get us here, we are all very unique, amazing souls, in my opinion.
Ashley, I would invite you to receive.
Yes, please do.
Thank you, Angela. I do. Thank you. I do receive that. And thank you for challenging me on that. It is still sometimes an act of presence to accept things. So I'm thankful for that.
I know.
Oh, there you go. Thank you, Sandy. Thank you.
I get a lot of that questions about like self-care and stuff, like when, and you know, especially just working with women most of the time, you know, self-care is, you exercise, you eat right, you do those, you meditate and all of that sort of thing. But there's a lot of it it's so internal, you know, it's your internal world where that self-care really, really happens. And I think when you start there, all of that other self-care comes. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's an outgrowth. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right. Just attracted to that. So yeah, self-care all across the board.
It's responsible self-care, right? It's the stuff that's actually going to make change for you to make change for others.
Yes.
Yeah. So
and a lot of people think that the self-care is something over the top. The other day, someone asked me, what do you do to give yourself self-care? And I said, I get 8 hours of sleep. I wash myself every day. And I breathe. Like, that's my self-care. That's what I can do right now. and I'm going to honor that, and I'm going to accept it, and I'm not going to tell myself I have to do anything additional, because that's what I can do for myself today.
Yeah.
And so many people are like, but you don't meditate, you don't do this, you don't do that. No, right now, this is what I can do. And this is what I'm allowing myself to do. And this is how I'm loving myself. And so it doesn't have to be over the top, out of this world. You're some yoga master or you meditate for an hour a day. Like sometimes it's just pausing and breathing. And that's how you can love yourself today. So understanding that concept too.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you for that perspective. Yeah, I feel you.
Beautiful. So, all right, you guys, we're a little over, but that is okay, because I think that is this conversation has just been like, y'all just made my whole life right now. Really, I'm so appreciative of you, and I'm so grateful for each of the parts that you guys have played, because I consider myself so blessed to be able to hold space for this, be a part of this amazing thing. I think the beautiful part of this is being able to show up in the space of many different perspectives, showing that while we all may not be on the same journey, we can respect each other's journey. Like we literally just get to embody the things that we talk about. And I think that is the most important thing, is when we can come back to the realization of we are on our journey, and that is okay. And everybody's on theirs, and that is okay. And we do what we need to do for us. And, and that's okay. Everything's okay. So I think that's a beautiful space for all of us to be in. So I'm just so grateful to you guys.
Thank you.
I am so grateful to this amazing audience that shows up. I feel truly honored to get to hold this space for people. And I feel truly honored for the people who call me to the front, like you all do, especially you, Thomas.
He's good at that.
He really is. But all right, you guys, thank you guys so much.
Especially thank you.
Yes, and Thomas, thank you for being on here, being the first male on the show.
An honor.
Way to represent.
You were the first male. You were the first male I ever did a podcast with too. You were my first male podcast episode as well. So Thomas, the honors, right? But yeah, guys, thank you so much.
Thank you, everybody.
Well, thank you, kudos to you for doing this, because I mean, we wouldn't all be here with you if you hadn't been doing this. So
thank you.
Hats off to you for pioneering.
Yes, good job.
So just remember, you guys, when we're all like, when I have my network, Oprah, when I have my network, just know. All right, so you guys, make sure you guys are tagged in this. So what I always like to do, I honor this for all shows. If you guys feel that you have something, this is like the theme I've been going with. If you guys feel that you have a resource that would be significant, whether it's your coaching services or you just have an activity you think that would be beneficial for people to help move them through this, please feel free to drop them in the comments after this. Also, that way people can connect with you if they feel called to connect with you, you guys. So please feel free to do that. I always encourage that, because I think, Tina, it was like you said, or Susan, I can't remember. I'm so sorry, you guys. But just because maybe this is my audience, maybe someone comes on and says something that helps somebody in this audience that maybe I couldn't have. So for me, that is a huge part of me, is that I'm always out to empower people, but maybe it's not necessarily that I empowered them, but I brought someone on that empowered them to think a different way and shift something within their life. So if I can continue to connect people in that sense, then forever and always I'm walking in my purpose. So, all right, you guys. So we will be back Thursday for an awesome episode. This the girl that's coming up to share her story is the queen of the bounce back. So she's got quite an interesting story coming up. So join us every Tuesday and Thursday night, 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Thank you guys so much. And for anybody
much love.
Yes, catch us on the replay, #replay. Guys.
Bye.
Bye.